Hello and welcome to Fin Business. I'm in conversation with R.K. Gurumurthy, who is the Treasury Head of Lakshmi Vilas Bank. Sir, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
To start with, I would like to understand a US story first. The US Fed has hiked the interest rates aggressively. How yield inversion in the US Treasury can increase the recession?
Fundamentally, it is believed that yield inversion is a harbinger or maybe a precursor to an impending recession. Right? If we take that definition and we look at the current market, what has happened is, especially on Friday when the markets crashed, it was the 5-year yield curve that inverted with reference to 2 year, 3 year. The 2 over 10 is still flat and it's been flat for the last 3 years. We'll have to look at a few reasons why this inversion is happening and what it actually means in the long run. Firstly, central banks have been doing quantitative easing for quite some time now. It is also depressing the long-term yields. So arising out of that, you still see yields negative or far too depressed in many of the European markets. And we see that happening for a long while in the US markets also. So the quantitative easing is per se distorting or maybe giving distorting signals insofar as reading at for what you call a recession is concerned. But point taken that if this continues, possibly we could get into a phase where Fed will stop raising rates and they may also get other indicators, other signals that the economy is not heating up. The other reason why this reinversion of yield curve is because Fed has hiked the short-term rates far too soon and far too fast. So the short-term yields have gone significantly higher. In a nutshell, yes, this suggests there could be a recession or maybe we could see slow down significantly in the coming years.
Right.
The final point on that, we were seeing a synchronous growth across global, the G5 markets globally. Now, I think possibly we will see a synchronous slowdown in the major markets.
We have seen Middle East going bad, Europe going bad, but when you say, major markets, any specific name, any specific?
The market that we may be possibly be the first to slow down, I would suggest the US.
Okay.
Because we still see the European market still not out of the sluggishness they were. UK is already fighting that Brexit case. So possibly it could US be again that will lead the market when we reverse.
So there's a drastic fall on a 10-year and 30-year yield. How would this impact on banks?
The 10-year benchmark has come off by 75 basis in less than a couple of months.
Yes.
So yields have come off sharply. That is on the back of a lot of open market operations by the Reserve Bank of India, which gave a lot of liquidity to the market. Point number one. Point number two, in the last policy, in the October policy, RBI in fact changed the stance from being neutral to maybe they were trying to be a little cautiously on a tightening path. But the way the current policy has been announced, we see more liquidity or maybe liquidity measures coming in. Having said that, yields have dropped sharply. This will help banks which have borne the brunt of this yield curves going sharply up for the last 1 year.
Right.
Treasuries will make good profits. We see a lot of banks taking advantage of this sharp fall in the yields. This will help. Having said that, once the yields drop, for example, if they consolidate or maybe they remain in a 7.25 or maybe 7.5 range for a while, then you can see that repricing happening in other spaces. For example, the liabilities will get repriced, the assets thereof will also get repriced.
Right.
So this, in the short run, they are very good for the banks. In the medium run, we'll have to see how banks are quick to reprice. We also see the other development coming in where banks are supposed to price the retail assets out of market benchmarks. So that will also be a game changer.
So looking at the current situation, to what extent the volatility across equity markets and emerging markets, impacting the treasury heads?
honestly, treasurers will love volatility. Volatility is something which is an opportunity.
Okay.
Higher the volatility, higher the opportunity. Unfortunately, in the Indian market, there are certain restrictions. For example, if we see good volatility in the equities, a bank cannot typically short the index or maybe play from a short sale side.
Right.
Having said that, volatility is good. Actually, volatility, equities are only an asset class which is an investment, but there is a currency impact. So it is good for the markets. Having said that, if you look at the volatility of the emerging markets, for example, Turkey, or for example, Brazil, for example, Mexico, the volatilities there have really had cascading effect across emerging markets. Much of them, it is more so much of a collateral damage. While India may not have directly been related to that, India did suffer that. So volatility, while it has had its own pockets of impacts on the markets, broadly we love volatility, we need that.
So looking at the new RBI rules to link the retail lending rate, with the external benchmark lending rate, what is the impact that you see of this particular decision?
We'll have to slightly go to the history. We first had BPLR, the prime lending rate. Then we had the MCLR. Then now we will be having the external benchmark retail rates from 1st of April. This is already in vogue insofar as the wholesale advances are concerned. We can still price wholesale advances of market benchmarks. Now it is being extended to the retail and MSME categories also. Now, you look at it from a bank's perspective, banks' margins have never changed drastically when we moved from one regime to the other, from prime lending rate to MCLR or rather from prime MCLR now to completely floating rate. It has not made significant dents or changes in the way banks' margins change. The delta has not been significantly different. Where it matters is we don't have a floating rate deposits in the current juncture. Indian banks, there is an embedded option where a depositor can call. It's a call option with a depositor. Bank cannot put. We don't have a put option. So the deposits we take are for fixed tenors, whereas we may soon be having a regime where all our loans, virtually all our loans, can be priced off an external benchmark. Now, in any case, from a NIM perspective or net interest margin perspective, banks will try to work to protect that margin. Okay. The circular also, although we are awaiting the final guidelines from RBI, the initial indication is that once we fix a margin for a client loan, it has to remain standard across the currency of that loan or whatever So, to the extent there are changes in the benchmark rates, the transmission may happen swifter. For example, a housing loan portfolio to say overnight repo rate. The moment there is a 25 basis rate cut, virtually the rates will get replaced from the next reset. So that's a big advantage. It increases enhances transparency. The flip side is customers. Customers also may require it. It predicates that the customer also understands markets and market dynamics. Customer will have to take a final call when it comes to us to take a loan. Whether it's which benchmark you would like to choose,
right.
What is medium-term view, what is long-term view. Because once you hardcode the margin, unless there is a credit change, the spreads remain constant.
Right.
Then there could be pre-closure penalty. All these are there. There are a lot of things. There are various moving parts to it. Overall, it increases transparency significantly. It should be a good boon for MSME sector especially, whose borrowing cost is perceived to be far higher.
Okay. So, looking at the stance that RBI has taken in last couple of quarters and looking at the inflation numbers, looking at the growth of the banks, what is the current liquidity situation and how do you see it changing going ahead for next few quarters at least?
Purely from a numbers perspective on the day, we are at about 35,000 crore negative liquidity deficit, and if you also add the WMA and all those balances, on an average we should be close to about 80,000 crore in deficit mode. Now add to that currency slippage, because currency in circulation is likely to have a slippage of close to a lakh of a crore between now and end March 2019. So we are talking of about close to 1,50,000 crore of deficit,
right,
on a cumulative basis, taking into account all other known outflows. RBI has already announced OMOs, open market operations, of about 40,000 crore the current month. In addition to that, RBI has clearly stated that they would continue to do OMOs, open market operations, that is buying bonds and pumping in liquidity into the system until March 2009. So clearly, to the extent liquidity or the deficit worsens, RBI may address that. While RBI may not have explicitly said that, it clearly is an impression that RBI will not allow liquidity to be in negative mode or a deficit mode on a prolonged basis. And RBI also sees this as a short term, or maybe it is not a structural or a permanent deficit, it is a short term or maybe a short term mismatch. So RBI will do what is required to ensure, to answer that point, that what is the future looking like. Pretty sure we can rest assured that until at least March end, liquidity will not worsen, liquidity condition will not worsen significantly. RBI has various options, various tools. Apart from OMOs, they can also do long-term repos. 6 months, they may possibly do 1 year repos also, which is what market may also like it. They can also always, so from looking into the various moving parts here, I think liquidity should remain comfortable towards until the end of the year. And it is again evolving. We'll have to see how the inflation remains, how the interest rate environment is, how the global markets, how the US markets are.
But what is the learning that you have about RBI? What is the stance that RBI can take in next? Or what is the long-term view that RBI can take on a liquidity position?
See, RBI has been, firstly, it's been the combination of being preemptive and being dynamically proactive, that ratio possibly changes. But they have always been there. It's been a great comforting factor. For example, the way this policy, especially this credit policy, was absolutely without changing the stance. They have given the signal that by saying that they are, by emphasizing rather that they are the lender of the last resort, it's a huge comfort. So possibly, and the big fear that the market participants had, or the banking space had, about liquidity or the type of the sort of liquidity crisis or maybe tightness we may possibly get into, that fear is not there. In any case, if you look at it, the overnight rates are well anchored to the repo rates, because by a combination of various tools available, RBI has ensured that the overnight rates do not go beyond a particular range. So that's a great comfort.
So going ahead, what do you think about, what is your outlook on the margins for PSU, for private banks? What do you see? It's
going to be much better than what it was last 2 quarters. Apart from operational efficiency, all the recoveries we have from the NPA loans also add up to your interest income. So that is going to be another enabler for improving margins. So I'm quite sanguine that we'll see improving margins across the banking space.
All right, Mr. Gurumurthy, that was it. That was really nice talking to you. Those were good insights. Thank you so much for talking to Fin Business.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching.